Good afternoon, everyone. The June 9th, 2020 virtual meeting of the Anne Arundel County Council is now in session. Today, we will continue the final deliberations on the FY21 proposed budget for Anne Arundel County. We will start with council amendments to the budget, after which we will take a recess and then come back together to receive supplemental budget requests from the administration. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Persky?
Here.
Ms. Fiedler?
Present.
Ms. Rodvian?
Here.
Ms. Hare?
Present.
Ms. Lee?
Present.
Mr. Volkey?
Present.
Ms. Pickard?
Present.
Madam Auditor?
Present.
And Madam Legislative Counsel?
Present.
Madam Chair, all council are present.
Thank you. Please pause for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ms. Rodvian. I'm sorry. Ms. Fiedler will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me. Ms. Rodvian will now lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we begin today's meeting, let us take a moment to ask for and summon the strength to make wise decisions and to bring sound guidance to our community. Let us remember that we make these decisions as our nation and world fight a pandemic and our country renews calls for justice and liberty for all its citizens.
Thank you, Ms. Rodvian. Madam Secretary, please read the Open Meetings Act statement.
The county attorney has asked that I read the following statement. The Maryland Open Meetings Act, a state law, requires public meetings to be open to the public and to be held in places reasonably accessible to individuals who would like to attend these meetings. General Provisions Article Section 3102C. The virtual format of this meeting of the County Council is due to the COVID-19 emergency and is necessary in light of the serious health risks associated with public gatherings, as well as the governor's various executive orders limiting public gatherings. While a virtual meeting of this type was not envisioned by the Open Meetings Act, steps have been taken to ensure that this virtual meeting includes alternate accessibility features that the Open Meetings Act Compliance Board and the courts have reviewed and approved, such as having a call-in phone number that allows anyone with a telephone to call and listen to the meeting, broadcasting the meeting with video and audio on cable TV and on the web, and allowing written public comments to the legislation be filed with the clerk and considered by the council. The County Office of Law has opined that the public access provided by this technology makes this virtual meeting reasonably accessible to the public and therefore complies with the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Because this is a virtual meeting, we cannot provide reasonable seating facilities for the news media or the public, and we cannot physically be located in Annapolis, the county seat. Therefore, may I have a motion to suspend rules 3-103, 3-105, and 3-106?
Lacey, so moved.
May I have a second?
Rodvian, second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to suspend rules 3-103, 3-105, and 3-106.
Mr. Persky?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacey?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The motion to suspend rules 3-103, 3-105, and 3-106 is passed.
Thank you. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda at this time? Seeing none, may I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution, or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
Lacey, so moved.
May I have a second?
Rodvian, second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 26-20.
Bill number 2620, an ordinance concerning annual budget and appropriation ordinance of Anne Arundel County.
Is there any discussion before we get started with amendments? May I have a motion to vote on amendments 1 through 84 as a block?
Lacy, so moved.
Persky, second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to vote amendments number 1 through 84 as a block.
Mr. Pruski,
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler,
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian,
Aye.
Ms. Hare,
Aye.
Ms. Lacy,
Aye.
Mr. Volkey,
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Motion to vote on amendments 1 through 84 as a block is passed.
Madam Secretary, please read amendments number 1 through 84.
Amendment number 1 reduces contractual services by $22,000 for operating equipment services based on expenditure history plus inflation. Reduces supplies and materials by $129,000 for building supplies based on expenditure history plus inflation and planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 2 reduces supplies and materials by $27,000 for copy machine supplies based on expenditure history and provides for 4 new copiers. Amendment number 3 reduces personal services by $30,700 for contractual FICA based on planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 4 reduces contractual services by $22,000 for Centrex phone service based on expenditure history. Amendment number 5 reduces personal services by $11,000 for salaries and wages to correct the one-time bonus payment to non-represented employees. Amendment number 6 reduces personal services by $11,300 for salaries and wages to remove the one-time bonus payment for county council members included in error. Amendment number 7 reduces contractual services by $10,000 for financial audit services based on the expenditure history plus inflation. Amendment number 8 reduces grants, contributions, and other by $145,000 for grant fund contribution, $130,000, to align reimbursing SDAT services in accordance with state law, and for front foot assessments and tax, $15,000 based on the current assessment bills. Amendment number 9 reduces contractual services by $100,000 for management services based on planned spending, including new initiatives in fiscal year 21. Reduces business and travel by $5,000 for training seminars and courses based on expenditure history, and reduces grants, contributions, and other by $7,000 for grants and contributions based on planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 10 reduces personal services by $259,000 for salaries and wages to correct a duplicate salary increase. Reduces supplies and materials by $25,500 based on expenditure history plus inflation and planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 11 reduces personal services by $25,000 for salaries and wages to align some vacant positions with the applicable minimum salary. Reduces contractual services by $10,000 for non-Centrex phone service based on expenditure history. Amendment number 12 reduces contractual services by $27,500 for other professional services for planned spending and to eliminate costs to be paid with non-county funds. Amendment number 13 reduces capital outlay by $2,100,000 for automotive equipment based on vehicle and technology replacements in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 14 reduces contractual services by $20,000 for other professional services based on expenditure history plus inflation. Amendment number 15 Reduces supplies and materials by $15,000 for printing commercial based on expenditure history plus inflation. Amendment number 16 reduces business and travel by $17,000 for training, seminars, and courses based on expenditure history plus inflation. Amendment number 17 reduces personal services by $52,000 for temporary pay based on expenditure history. Reduces contractual services by $251,000 for mowing, $25,000, and for operating equipment services, $226,000 based on expenditure history and planned spending in fiscal year 21. Reduces personal services by $16,000 for overtime based on expenditure history. Reduces contractual services by $178,000 for consultants based on expenditure history. Amendment number 19, capital budget, reduces fiscal year 21 PAYGO by $200,000. Amendment number 20, capital program, reduces PAYGO by $50,000 in each fiscal year ending June 30, 2022, June 30, 2023, June 30, 2024, June 30, 2025, and June 30, 2026. Amendment number 21, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $54,000. Capital budget, reduces fiscal year 21 bonds by $9 million. Amendment number 23, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $30,000. Amendment number 24, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $1,050,000. Amendment number 25, prior council approval, reduces prior approved PAYGO by $1 million. Amendment number 26, capital program, reduces by $10 million in fiscal year ending June 30, 2024, and restores $10 million of bonds in fiscal year ending June 30, 2026 to match page 58B and the summary to page 58A as intended. Amendment number 27, capital program, reduces general county bonds by $870,000 and PPI fund bonds by $10,012,000 in fiscal year ending June 30, 2022, and restores general county bonds of $870,000 and PPI fund bonds of $10,012,000 in fiscal year ending June 30, 2023. Amendment number 28, capital program, reduces FY22 bonds by $1,440,000. Amendment number 29, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $1,575,000. Amendment number 30, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $265,000. Amendment number 31, capital budget, reduces fiscal year 21 bonds by $175,000. Prior council approval, reduces prior approved general fund PAYGO by $95,000. Prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $1,130,000. Oh, apologies, that was Amendment 33. I don't believe I said that. Amendment 34, prior council approval, reduces approved bonds by $110,000. Amendment number 35, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $54,000. Amendment number 36, capital budget, increases fiscal year 21 Maryland Waterway Improvement Grants by $20,000. Amendment number 37, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $25,000. Amendment number 38, capital budget, deletes fiscal year 21 WPRF bonds of $1 million. Capital budget, amendment number 39, capital budget, reduces fiscal year 21 PAYGO by $540,000. Amendment number 40, capital budget, increases fiscal year 21 other state grants by $120,000. Amendment number 41, capital budget, reduces fiscal year bonds by $1,500,000. Amendment number 42, capital budget, increases fiscal year 21 other state grants by $943,500. Amendment number 43, capital budget, fiscal year 21 PPI fund bonds reduces fiscal year 21 PPI fund bonds by $1 million. Amendment number 44, capital program, increases fiscal year 23 bonds by $1 million. Amendment number 45, capital budget, increases fiscal year 21 other state grants by $40,000. Amendment number 46, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $2,564,000. Amendment number 47, capital budget, increase fiscal year 21 IAC funding by $2,564,000. Amendment number 48, capital budget, increases fiscal year 21 federal grants by $5,797. Amendment number 49, prior council approval, reduces prior approved PAYGO by $752,000. Capital budget, Amendment number 50, capital budget, reduces fiscal year 21 bonds by $300,000. Amendment number 51, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $1,500,000. Amendment number 52, prior council approval, reduces prior approved solid waste bonds by $1,400,000. Amendment number 53, prior council approval, reduces prior approved wastewater bonds by an additional $264,000. Amendment number 4, capital budget, deletes $650,000 of fiscal year 21 wastewater bonds in its entirety. Amendment number 55, prior council approval, reduces prior approved wastewater bonds by $125,000. Amendment number 56, prior council approval, reduces prior approved wastewater bonds by $111,000. Amendment number 57, capital budget, deletes $200,000 of fiscal year 21 wastewater PAYGO. Amendment number 58, prior council approval, reduces prior approved water bonds by $157,000. Amendment number 59, prior council approval, reduces prior approved water bonds by $29,000. Amendment number 60, prior council approval, reduces prior approved water bonds by $1,100,000. Amendment number 61, prior council approval, reduces prior approved water bonds by $1 million. Amendment number 62, capital program, delete fiscal year 20 water bonds of $24,624,000, increase fiscal year 23 water bonds by $12,638,000, and adds 24 water bond of $11,986,000. Number 63, council approval, reduces prior approved water bonds by $134,000. Amendment number 64, prior council approval, reduces prior approved water bonds by $250,000. Amendment number 65, capital budget, reduces fiscal year water bonds by $700,000. Amendment number 66, capital budget, fiscal year 21 water bonds by $65,000. Amendment number 67, prior council approval, reduces prior approved bonds by $155,000. Amendment number 68, prior council approval, reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $94,000. Amendment number 69, prior council approved, reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $415,000. Amendment number 70, prior council approval, reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by an additional $400,000. Amendment number 71, prior council approval, reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $415,000. Amendment number 72, capital budget, reduces fiscal year 21 WPRF bonds by $1,411,000. Amendment number 73, prior council approval, reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $975,000. Amendment number 74, prior council approval, reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $350,000. Amendment number 75, prior council approval, reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by an additional $500,000. Amendment number 76, capital budget reduces fiscal year 21 WPRF bonds by $1 million. Amendment number 77, capital budget reduces fiscal year WPRF bonds by $500,000. Amendment number 78, capital program increases fiscal year 23 WPRF bonds by $500,000. Amendment number 79, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $90,000. Amendment number 80, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $1 million. Amendment number 81, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $490,000. Amendment number 82, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $775,000. Amendment number 83, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $665,000. Prior council approval, amendment number 84, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by an additional $1,950,000.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I believe the administration would like to respond. We'll wait a moment as we pull in Mr. Trumbauer for the administration.
Greetings, Madam Chair and council members. Chris Trumbauer for the County Exec's Office. I also have with us in the waiting room Budget Officer Jim Beecham, and we've got several budget analysts on call as needed. But for the block of amendments that was just read into the record, the administration has no objection.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion from my colleagues? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendments number 1 through 84.
Mr. Pruski,
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler,
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian,
Aye.
Ms. Hare,
Aye.
Ms. Lacy,
Aye.
Mr. Volkey,
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendments 1 through 84 are adopted.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 85.
Amendment number 85 reduces fixed charges by $67,000 to correct the contribution to the self-insurance fund.
May I have a motion to adopt?
So moved, Persky.
May I have a second?
Second, Lacy.
Thank you. Would the administration like to weigh in on this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer for the County Exec's Office. No objection to this amendment. We will just note that this would bring the Board of Ed below maintenance of effort, but we understand there will be subsequent amendments that will make that point moot. So no objection to this.
Thank you. Mr. Pruski?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just for the record, this is Board of Ed, and I know that some people say it's not connected, but I always disclose if I vote my spouse is a employee with the school system, so if we make changes, it doesn't really necessarily impact, but I just want to put that on the record for ethics, opinions, and policy, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pruski. Ms. Rodvian?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Rodvian District 6. I also would like to disclose that I am a part-time employee of AACPS. And even though none of these amendments affect my work at the school directly, I believe it's important to disclose that they are Board of Education, and that is my my other employer besides the people of Anne Arundel County.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on amendment number 85? Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to put on the record that I have reviewed the ethics opinions, and again, I put in a bill last year, Bill 8619, which dealt with conflicts of interest.
Mr. Volkey, we've lost your volume.
Oh, let me try again. How's that? Can you hear me? Okay,
We can hear you now.
Good. Okay. I said I put in a bill last year, Bill 86-19, which dealt with ethics and conflicts of interest. It was reviewed by the State Ethics Commission as well as the County Ethics Commission. And it was approved consistent with practice of the county, as well as being consistent with. Not sure if you can still hear me. I'm getting a.
We can hear you now.
Okay. As well as being consistent with the county's ethics laws. It would have precluded an individual from voting to the Board of Education if they were employed by the board. I just want to put that on the record that I'm not certain exactly what the ethics protocol is on this, but I do believe that had Bill 86-19 passed, it may have been a little clearer. But here we are another year into the budget. So I just wanted to make that point on the record so that everyone was aware.
Thank you, Mr. Volkey. Ms. Lacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to state for the record that I believe Mr. Volkey's comments at this point is irrelevant, given that that bill is not on the table, wasn't passed, the issue is not on the table, and sufficient ethics opinions have already been provided to the affected council members. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 85.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Nay.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Amendment number 85 is adopted.
Madam Secretary, the next amendment is amendment number 86. I am one of 4 sponsors and we wish to withdraw this amendment.
So noted.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 87.
Amendment number 87 reduces supplies and materials by $30,000 for safety equipment, $20,000, and general office supplies, $10,000, based on the expenditure history plus inflation, and provides for planned spending, including the newly opened Central Holding and Processing Center.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. This is sponsored by Mr. Volkey, Ms. Fiedler, and Ms. Hare. I see Mr. Volkey would like to speak.
We need a motion to adopt.
I'm ready to roll, guys. May I have a motion to adopt amendment number 87?
So moved.
I believe that was moved and seconded, Mr. Volkey, and then Ms. Hare.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you. For ease, I was going to propose a motion that we batch vote on amendments 87 to 100, since they all pertain to recommendations from the auditor and they've all been proposed by the same people and everybody's had a chance to review them. So I just thought that might be easier. So I would make that motion at this time, if that's appropriate. If not, we can wait after this and then move it on 88 to 100.
No, anyone you want to bundle, we'll be happy to bundle. So you made a motion. Yes, ma'am.
It would be appropriate for for Mr. Volkey to withdraw his motion on 87.
Withdrawn.
And then we can do a motion to vote on whatever those numbers were as a block.
So I'll withdraw on 87 and move, this is Volkey, District 3, move to vote as a block on 87 to 100 on the amendments.
Is there a second?
Jessica Hare, second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on a motion to put amendments 87 through 100 in a block.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to take amendment numbers 87 through 100 as a block is adopted. We now need a motion and a second. I mean, when we get to vote, sorry.
Oh,
Apologies.
okay.
Man.
You need to read them in, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Secretary, please read amendments 87 through 100.
Amendment number 87 reduces supplies and materials by $30,000 for safety equipment, $20,000, and general office supplies, $10,000, based on the expenditure history plus inflation, and provides for planned spending, including the newly opened Central Holding and Processing Center. Amendment number 88 reduces contractual services by $24,000 for personnel recruitment based on expenditure history and no hiring in fiscal year 21. Reduces supplies and materials by $27,000 for copy machine supplies based on expenditure history and provides for 4 new copiers. Reduces capital outlay by $36,500 for communications equipment based on expenditure history. Amendment number 89 reduces contractual services by $13,000 for personnel recruitment based on fiscal year 20 expenditures. Reduces supplies and materials by $27,000 for copy machine supplies based on expenditure history and provides for 4 new copiers. Reduces capital outlay by $36,500 for communications equipment based on expenditure history. Amendment number 90 reduces contractual services by $222,000 for Centrix phone service, $22,000, and data processing software, $200,000, based on expenditure history. Amendment number 91 reduces contractual services by $26,900 for lease rate vehicle operating, $13,900, and lease rate vehicle replacement, $13,000, based on planned spending in fiscal year 21, and reduces personal services by $11,000 to correct the one-time bonus payment to non-rep employees. Amendment number 92 reduces contractual services by $10,000 for financial/audit services based on the expenditure history plus inflation, and by $30,000 for ambulance services to align the ambulance fees with revenue projections plus lockbox fees. Amendment number 93 reduces grants, contributions, and other by $355,000 for grant contribution, $130,000 to align reimbursement to SDAT for services in accordance with state law, and for front foot assessment tax, $15,000, based on the current assessment bills, and for contribution to PPI fund, $210,000, to reflect required percentage of the income tax rate increase. Amendment number 94 reduces contractual services by $10,000 for security systems based on the expenditure history and provides for additional circuit court security in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 95 reduces business and travel by $20,000 for transportation costs to reflect the transfer of this budget to legal services and provides for additional planned spending in fiscal year 21. Reduces grants, contributions, and other by $20,000 for grant fund contributions based on planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 96 reduces contractual services by $261,500 for lease rate vehicle operating, $14,600, for lease rate vehicle replacement, $7,900, and for other services, $239,000 based on supported planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 97 reduces personal services by $259,000 for salaries and wages to correct a duplicate salary, and reduces supplies and materials by $25,500 for copy machine supplies, $11,000, based on expenditure history plus inflation, and for other weapons and supplies, $14,500. Based on planned spending in fiscal year 21, reduces contractual services by $40,000 for non-Centrix phone service, $20,000, and communication services, $20,000, based on expenditure history and planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 98, reduce personal services by $125,000 for salary and wages, $100,000 to align the vacant positions with their applicable minimum salary. For special pays, $20,000 to correct the minimum wage increase calculation, and for FICA, $5,000 to reflect the reduction in salaries and wages. Reduces contractual services by $41,000 for office equipment, $21,000 based on expenditure history plus inflation. For non-Centrix phone service, $10,000 based on expenditure history, and for other professional services, $10,000 based on planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 99 reduces contractual services by $201,000 for mowing, $136,000 to account for the lowest bid at service, and for snow removal service, $65,000 based on historical budget. Amendment number 100 reduces personal services by $104,000 for salary and wages based on expenditure history and planned spending in fiscal year 21. Reduces contractual services by $161,800 for county facility repair and renovation, $397,800, mowing, $25,000, operating equipment services, $299,000, and utility and water sewer purchases, $440,000 based on expenditure history plus inflation, and provides for the newly acquired treatment plant.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Would the administration like to weigh in on amendments 87 through 100? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Volkey.
Not in this block, Chris, it's in the next one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As one of the sponsors of this, I was hoping we would have the chance to speak to them briefly. I just wanted to make clear.
I would like to, I apologize for interrupting, but we will need a motion to adopt.
Oh, so moved. Volkey.
Second, Fiedler.
Oh, pardon me.
Okay,
Mr.
that's
Volkey,
right.
As one of the sponsors, did you want to proceed?
I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. These are all cuts that have been recommended by our auditor. Obviously, they were disputed cuts. The administration does not agree with any of these cuts. So while we have already heard last week in their rebuttal all the reasons why these cuts shouldn't happen, having reviewed them, considered them, and then talked to the auditor again about it, we still believe, at least I do and the other sponsors believe, that these are still appropriate cuts that our auditor has found that are appropriate to make this a better budget. So with that being said, we would move this understanding that these are the quote disputed cuts that the auditor has reviewed, but that the administration obviously disagrees with. And we've already heard from them as to what it is that they disagree with.
Mr. Trumbauer, would you like to speak for the administration at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. I think Councilmember Volkey did an adequate job describing our opposition to these. I will just add, if these cuts are taken, there will be consequences. There will be things that some departments can do, or there will be supplies that can't be gotten. So it is a little bit of a disagreement between our budget office and the county auditor's recommendations. But we would ask you to oppose these. We agreed to the other block because we had no opposition to those cuts, agreed they were good cuts, but we remain steadfast in our opposition to this block. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hare, did you have Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up and say that I know that those statements were indicated during the rebuttal process, Mr. Trumbauer, and in reviewing the auditor's re-review of the rebuttal, every single one of these or a majority of these either had historical reductions or reaching the budgeted item in the previous budgets. So historically, they were not spending as much, or looking forward, the auditor noted that there were not plans to spend more. So I think that these were well thought out in second review of the rebuttal.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. Thank you, Councilmember Fiedler. We appreciate that, and our budget office did review the auditor's re-review. And in general, I believe we disagree. And for most of these, there are additional services or programs that need to happen that we are accounting for. So it's just a disagreement. If you have specific questions, we do have Jim Beecham here that can answer to them, but I would ask the council to reject these amendments.
Is there any further discussion at this time? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendments number 87 through 100.
Mr. Pruski.
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler,
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian,
Nay.
Ms. Hare,
Aye.
Ms. Lacy,
Nay.
Mr. Volkey,
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Nay.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment numbers 87 through 100 are defeated.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 101.
Amendment number 101, capital budget reduces fiscal year 21 funds by $5 million.
Is there a motion to adopt? Mr. Volkey?
Madam Chair, I was going to do the same thing for ease and again move to block vote these amendments 101 to 111.
I'm sorry, which amendments?
101 to 111. So 101 to 111.
Ooh, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Trumbauer.
Madam Chair, I will just, Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. I will just note that in this block, we would oppose everything except for 103. So if you wanted to exclude 103 and take that separately, that would be one option. But I'll leave it to you. I wanted the sponsor and the maker of the motion to be aware of that.
Thank you. I'm happy, Madam Chair, Nathan Volkey again. I'm happy to amend the motion to have it be a motion to take as a block vote amendments 101, 102, and 104 through 111, excluding amendment 103.
Is there a second?
Hare, second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to vote on amendments 101 through 111 minus 103 as a block.
Mr. Pruski,
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler,
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian,
Aye.
Ms. Hare,
Aye.
Ms. Lacy,
Aye.
Mr. Volkey,
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to take amendment numbers 101 through 111, excluding amendment number 103, is passed. So.
Madam Secretary, you need to read these in to the record, correct?
Correct.
Please read amendment 101 through 111 minus 103 at this time.
Amendment number 101, capital budget reduces fiscal year 21 bonds by $5 million. Amendment number 102, prior council approval reduces approved bonds by $1,200,000. Excluding 103. Amendment number 104, prior council approval reduces prior approved bonds by $700,000. Amendment number 105, capital budget deletes fiscal year 21 bonds of $125,000. Amendment number 26, capital increases fiscal year 23 bonds by $125,000. Amendment number 104, prior council approval reduces general fund pay-go by $125,000. Amendment number 108, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $500,000. Amendment number 109, capital budget deletes fiscal year 21 bonds of $362,000. Amendment number 110, prior council approval reduces prior approved WPRF bonds by $95,000. And amendment number 111, capital budget deletes fiscal year 21 water pay-go of $160,000 and reduces fiscal year 21 water bonds by $840,000.
I see Mr. Volkey is asking to speak. Mr. Volkey, would you like to weigh in on these amendments at this time?
Well, first, Madam Chair, I was going to make a motion that the amendments be adopted. Amendments 101 to 102 and 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, and 111.
Hare, second.
Would you like to speak on your amendments, Mr. Volkey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would appreciate that. So again, these are the capital version of the auditor's recommended cuts to the budget that were disputed and that the administration will disagree with. So again, our independent auditor reviewed these expenditures, put up proposed cuts. We heard from the administration on Friday the reasons why they disagree with these cuts. I expect they will continue to oppose them today, but I'm not going to speak for Mr. Trumbauer. I don't want to steal his thunder. That being said, we have reviewed them after hearing the administration's response and believe that they are still appropriate and good cuts. As a result, we've put them forward for consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Trumbauer, did you want to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer for the County Execs. Once again, Mr. Volkey has done a fair job outlining our opposition to these. I will say that Mr. and his team have gone through these and looked again and talked with our capital projects managers in the various departments, and we strongly oppose these cuts. They would impact projects that are underway, and I think it's just a disagreement between the auditor's office and our budget folks on what is needed, but we would ask you to reject these cuts to ensure that these projects can be completed on schedule.
Thank you. This is Allison Pickard, Chair, District 2. I can tell you that in this bundle are two projects near and dear to District 2's heart, Randazzo Park and the Glen Burnie Ice Skating Rink. And I do recall last Friday listening to Ms. Lays from Rec and Parks vehemently oppose these, and I would never want to jeopardize those projects in my district. I take the Department of Rec and Parks opposition seriously. I think she knows what she needs to make sure those projects move forward and finish on time. And I will be voting no on this block. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to run through a few points on the follow-up to the rebuttal from Madam Auditor on this block. There are either balances remaining, average spending is coming in lower, or there are insufficient funds for construction, just for the record.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Trumbauer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. Councilwoman Fiedler does bring up a good point about several projects that have insufficient funds, and we will be bringing forth supplemental amendments later in the day that will address those one or two instances. So I wanted to make that clear to the council.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further discussion on amendments 101 through 111 minus 103? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendments 101 through 111 minus 103.
Mr. Pruski.
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Nay.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Nay.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Nay.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendments numbers 101 through 111, excluding 103, are defeated.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read amendment 103.
Amendment number 103, capital budget, adds qualifying language to the Zetron tone generator capital project to prevent spending federal funds on the project until eligibility for funds is confirmed.
May I have a motion to adopt?
Fiedler, so moved.
May I have a second?
Hare, second.
Would the sponsors or the administration like to speak on amendment 103? Ms. Fiedler?
I think the introduction kind of speaks for itself. It's just restricting the funds until we can be assured that there's money.
Sounds good. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 103. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Mr. Pruski,
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler,
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian,
Aye.
Ms. Hare,
Aye.
Ms. Lacy,
Aye.
Mr. Volkey,
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 103 is adopted.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 112.
I will read it.
Oh Lord, it's gonna be a long day.
I will read in amendment number 112. Amendment number 112 reduces grants, contributions, and other by $2,047,700, reducing funds to be held in the contingency fund.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved, Councilman Persky.
Is there a second?
Lacy, second.
Would any of the sponsors of this amendment like to speak to it? Would the administration like to weigh in on this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. I believe this amendment would make a reduction to the contribution to CAO contingency fund. Our presumption is that this is to fund some later actions. So we do intend to offer a supplemental later, and we do understand the council has some actions that they intend to do. So we don't have a strong objection to this, but we will note for the record that at the end of this process, we probably will need a balancing amendment to straighten the CAO contingency fund out at that time. But if this is being used on supplemental requests or consensus things that the council is going to add to the BOE budget, we would not have a strong objection to this at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question for the administration. So obviously the CAO contingency fund started out at $12 million in the original budget request. You all were kind enough to send over the history of that fund and the balances therein. I've looked at it, and the average that I can find is somewhere around $8 or so million over the last about 10 or so budgets. I guess my question to you would just be this: what is the appropriate amount of money in the CAO contingency fund in light of this amendment and other amendments that are coming in to use that money for other purposes?
Thank you, Council Member Chris Trumbauer at the County Exec's Office. So I remember that we did have a conversation about this during the first 2 weeks of budget. I believe when the CAO came before you guys, when the CAO office was discussed. I don't know that there's a perfect amount, but we do want to be able to cover the potential for winter storms and for other emergency appropriations. As I'm sure the council remembers, a few months back, we used some CAO appropriation to jumpstart our response to the pandemic before we had the federal CARES money. But I'd like to give Mr. Beecham an opportunity to answer as to what the quote unquote appropriate level may be for this fund.
Mr. Beecham, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jim Beecham, Budget Officer. As Mr. Trumbauer has said, there is no magic sweet spot for the balance of this fund. We typically keep it as healthy as we can for inclement weather. When we have a big snowstorm, those have run up to 10 million to take care of a snowstorm, and that's typically what we have held this fund to prepare for.
Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen, for those follow-ups. So the one thing I did just want to confirm, Mr. Trumbauer, we had actually put some reporting requirements on the CARES fund money that had been approved back in March. And our first report, and it looks like actually no money has been spent out of that $37 million basically that we appropriated because you did get the federal CARES money and didn't have to use it. I just wanted to confirm that because you had mentioned you used it to jumpstart it. And I think there was like a $1.2 million appropriation, but then you actually haven't paid that yet. And so you're going to pay that out of CARES money, I thought. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear that none of that money had actually been used for the COVID-19 response.
Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. I am not as a member of the county execs policy and comms team, I'm not super familiar with the inner workings of how the money moves around, so I can defer that to a member of the budget team. But I will say, we are submitting the monthly reports to the council, and we are also working on a visualization to put on the Open Arundel site, which we hope to actually have ready later this week, that will explain in simple terms how that federal money is being spent. So I think that will help you as well, Mr. Volke. But if any members of the budget team can answer the specifics of the move around money question, I would defer to them.
Mr. Beecham.
Jim Beecham, Budget Officer. It's my understanding that that was utilized as an interim cash flow facility until the CARES money arrived, and we had the legislation in place to utilize the CARES money. Once the CARES money was structurally established, we then migrated the expenditures and the encumbrances.
We've lost your audio, sir.
Department fund and into the grant fund.
Did everyone hear Mr. Beecham? Because I lost his audio for a minute. Oh, it's my problem. Great. Okay. Do we have any further discussion on amendment number 112? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 112.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare? Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Ms. Hare, I'd like to clarify, I didn't quite hear you. I believe you said aye.
Yes.
Thank you. 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 112 is adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 113.
Amendment number 113. This reduces the self-insurance fund contribution for the allocation to the county by $67,000, adds community ambassadors for $66,800, adds 10 English language acquisition teachers for $768,800, and adds 7 Board of Ed transportation staff for $743,100.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Ms. Lacy. Is there a motion to adopt? Is there a second?
Second, Pruski, but I'd also request the floor when appropriate, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay. Amendment has been moved and seconded. Mr. Pruski, you have the floor.
Yep. Amendment 113, as stated earlier, my spouse is an employee in the school system, and as per ethics protocol and form submitted, I just want to go on record for the vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilwoman Rodvian, District 6. Similar to my colleague, Councilman Pruski, I am a part-time employee of AACPS, although I'm not directly impacted by any of these amendments.
Thank you. Did any one of the sponsors want to speak to this amendment? Ms. Lacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment does a number of things. Those at home watching, you heard the summary of the amendment that was read, but we have several lines, several pages of the Board of Education budget that we, the co-sponsors, feel it's important to amend. Those things include adding, excuse me, while I find the right line here, adding money for teachers, for English language acquisition teachers, and also for adding BOE transportation staff. That's due to recommendation that the Board of Ed received to increase the staffing in the transportation office to implement GIS improvements. And on the whole, our hope is, and our expectation is, that adding those staff and implementing the modern technology that this council has already helped pay for should result in cost savings. And that's all I have to say at this point about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilwoman Rodvian, District 6. I also think that these transportation positions that my colleague just mentioned could play a very important role if the Board of Education ends up needing to make a different schedule for students to attend school based on possible future outcomes in the pandemic that we're currently experiencing and that currently has us meeting virtually instead of in person. My colleague mentioned the future savings and hopefully just a more smooth operation and experience for students who use the school transportation system.
Thank you, Ms. Rodvian. The positions that are being added to the BOE budget as part of this amendment, there were many positions that were not able to be funded this year, and the sponsors, including myself, felt these were good positions to add, as English language learners are our fastest growing segment of the AACPS student body, and amongst other reasons already noted by my colleagues. Mr. Volke.
I was actually going to defer to Councilwoman Fiedler first.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Councilman Volke. I just want to make a quick comment. I unfortunately will not be able to support this amendment. And the reason is that this is an overall add to the school board's budget. It's a difficult time to make these decisions. There are certain economic uncertainties in our future. And with the Board of Education budget, because of maintenance of effort, we can never go back. And I think it's not necessarily the best time. I appreciate that the administration recognized this and had budgeted at maintenance of effort, and I want to honor that intent. So I will not be supporting this amendment today.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second what Councilwoman Fiedler said. I think that these are positions. The concern that I have, and I've expressed this to a number of my colleagues who've asked, as well as to individuals advocating for transportation positions to be added to the budget, including folks from the Board of Education. I have reviewed the entire 107-page Transportation Services Comprehensive Evaluation. I literally just pulled it up and looked at it again here on my computer. The concern that I have is I've looked at what their recommendations are. Many of them are low cost. They are not terribly expensive, but there is an ask that more positions be added to the transportation office. And the reason, at least according to this report, is because we have software that this county purchased, but that the transportation office does not know how to use. To me, that's a training issue and that's a personnel issue. And I don't think that it's appropriate for our county council to now say, well, the people who are in those positions are not able to do it, so we're going to give you more positions. To me, the more appropriate way to handle this is to say to our colleagues on the Board of Education, you have position control at the Board of Ed, and if you would like to see these transportation changes be made, then the most appropriate thing is to reclassify some of the positions to these GIS positions that you're looking for and managers. That is the appropriate way to solve it, to look in-house and try to figure that out, as opposed to coming to us and just asking for more money, which is always an easier thing to do, but I don't know that it's the appropriate thing to do. That's the concern that I have. I also share Councilwoman Fiedler's concern about increasing maintenance of effort, and I also have concerns about where some of these cuts are coming from. We're taking what appears to be non-personnel money. So we're cutting textbooks and classroom supplies, other instructional costs. And we're using these things to now turn around, and I'm looking in Amendment 113, Madam Chair. It looks like on page 6, line 42, instructional salaries and wages. We're making a change there to increase some of that. And then it looks like we're decreasing the classroom supplies a bit. No, actually, we're increasing those, excuse me. So maybe I'm mistaken on that, but my thought had been, and if I'm wrong, I'm okay to be wrong, but it looked like we were using one-time monies to fund ongoing salary costs. So that was a concern I had too, but I may need to look at that piece of it. But the rest of my comments stand.
Thank you, Mr. Volke. This is Allison Pickard, Chair, District 2. For clarification, I believe the reduction of the self-insurance fund contribution that's noted in this amendment to be $67,000 is removed from various line items in the school, in the BOE budget. That's what that is. And that has nothing to do with anything other than the self-insurance fund cut already noted by the auditor. I will say the Board of Education did request these positions and they were not funded by the county executive. So I am not here to say how the Board of Ed should allocate its staffing numbers. I do know as a parent of 3 school-age children that transportation and bus transportation is an area that needs improvement in the county school system, and that's why some of these positions are here, and the consultant has noted those in that long report. I will say the transportation department has not seen additional staffing in a decade or more, and we've added tens of thousands of students during that time because the motivation has been to keep new dollars in the classroom. So we can all disagree on if these are worthy or not. Ms. Rodvian, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually was investigating the same issue that my colleague from District 3, Councilman Volke, mentioned, the possibility of could these positions be, could the Board of Education take these positions and use instead training? And I had an extensive conversation with Mr. Shaknovic, who indicated that the audit actually recommended 6 of these new positions, and the 7th position is a direct result of a non-employer or a non-employee, a non-position recommendation, that audit as well. For me, at this time, when we are looking at a very tight budget, and we may be looking at a very tight budget again next year, the possibility for saving in the long run, even though there is a cost involved now, is worth the trade-off. That's why I'll be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Trumbauer, would the administration like to weigh in on this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. We have no opposition to this amendment. In fact, I'd say the County Executive definitely supports adding the community ambassadors in and the 10 English language acquisition teachers in. As has been discussed, we put forth a maintenance of effort budget only out of necessity. But if the council finds a way to fund some of these other priorities, we would have no objection to that. I would encourage you, since these are BOE related, that Mr. Shaknovich be allowed to give his position, but from the admin's perspective, we have no opposition.
Thank you. We can pull in Mr. Shaknovic. He's in the waiting room, I assume.
Good afternoon, members of the council. Alex Shaknovich, Chief Operating Officer, Anne Arundel County Public Schools. We have reviewed the amendment, and the figures depicted there are all correct. As was previously stated, these items were all part and parcel of the formally adopted budget that the Board of Education put forward to the administration in February, knowing full well the economic environment that we are in. Clearly, the Board of Education and Superintendent have reasonable expectations in terms of what we as a county can afford and move forward given the circumstances that we now find ourselves in today with the pandemic and other surrounded economic conditions. With all that said, however, we're very appreciative of the support we've received from the administration to date, and welcome any additions that the County Council may see fit. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, for any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shaknovic. This is Allison Pickard, Chair D2. Do we have any other comments on amendment number 113? Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I neglected to mention how important I believe the community ambassador positions are, especially in a time where our students are under enormous stress and strain because your family members are losing jobs. incomes different. Their school experience has been completely uprooted, and they've experienced pretty significant upheaval. And so I think those community ambassadors will have a very important role to play, along with all of the other social service positions, such as school counselors, psychologists, social workers, and PPWs. So I think it's important that we make sure that we keep those positions, or we get those positions back in the budget.
Ms. Lacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to step back a little bit to the larger point, which to me is that I understand why the county executive proposed a maintenance of effort budget, but it's simply not good enough. And we've had many, many years of adopting maintenance of effort type budgets, which have left our school system, essentially malnourished. And we owe it to the children in this county. And really, I think everyone in the county will benefit from these ads. And I'm certainly hopeful that will be the case for transportation as well. But more than that, it's, I think, foundational that we need to ensure that we've funded our school system and continue to invest in it even when times are hard, when we have to actually act to counter the history that that prior administrations have had of just keeping it maintenance of effort. It's just simply that. It's just not good enough, not acceptable. We're investing in a lot of other things. Agree to disagree on, which things are most important. But education isn't really one of those that I think we should have a big disagreement about.
Thank you. Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. I'll keep this really brief, sort of pull a little bit actually from what Mr. Trumbauer, Mr. Secondich, Ms. Fiedler, really what everyone said. I don't know that necessarily anyone disagrees that the community ambassadors are important, or that these are things, we'd all like to see the transportation increase. Certainly, I'm sure everyone in their district has heard from constituents who have trouble with either buses being early or late or half full, or there's all sorts of things. And I am hopeful that we will see improvements. But I do agree that in this instance, it would be a little irresponsible right now to go above the maintenance of effort that the county executive has put forward. And I appreciate that the county executive recognized in this instance, in this year, economic uncertainty, that maintenance of effort was appropriate, and that we're doing as much as possible within those confines. So for this reason, I can't support this, but it's not to say I don't think that these things are not important.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to clarify, in case there was any confusion, I too have 3 children in the school system, and I do not mean to argue the importance of these additions. Certainly they are each important on their own, and collectively it's just a matter of being in the midst of a global pandemic and not really knowing what our budget's going to look like next year. Difference of opinion, understood, but want to make sure that I'm clear that the importance is there, and I understand that.
Ms. Lake.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had to pull a page from my colleague, Mr. Volke's playbook and keep, coming back. But just because I would like to make a sincere plea to my 3 Republican colleagues. I know that in subsequent amendments that we're going to discuss, you have lots of cuts proposed. And I'd like to hear why you feel those cuts couldn't cover the request in this amendment, which is a total of about $1.5 million. Given the other cuts that you're looking for, I hope you'll consider this compromise. And I think we could be a 7-0 if you thought of it that way.
Seeing no further, Ms. Fiedler.
Sorry, I wanted to respond because it sounded like that was a question. And I would just say that I'm looking at this budget like I look at my own family budget. And if there is loss in potential revenue for this year and future years, I have to take that into consideration. And that's just how I view this a little bit differently, it sounds. No malice intended, just trying to be as conservative and responsible as possible.
Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo the sentiments of Councilwoman Fiedler, Councilwoman Hare about the importance of these positions. And we're unfortunately not talking about any of these in a vacuum, right? We're talking about all of these put together in one amendment. I do agree that there could be savings in this budget, but I don't anticipate that any of those savings are actually going to be realized, because I expect that, similar to our previous votes on additional cuts, the other things that we're going to propose are going to go down on party lines as well. So with that being said, if we had had discussions as a council about these types of things, and we had been able to talk about some of these points and kind of work on this together, then I absolutely think that maybe we would be having a different discussion, but that wasn't what happened here. So I just want to be clear for anybody watching at home that that's how this process works. I had sort of considered in the beginning of this meeting putting on sort of an exposition of how the budget actually works and peeling back the onion so that people could see how it actually goes. But then I realized people wanted to get out of here and do other things. So instead, I'll leave it there. That's my remark on the questions that were posed by my colleague.
Thank you, Mr. Volkey. I would like to say we are discussing the budget and this amendment right now. Ms. Hare? Ms. Lacy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to reiterate that point. I'm not sure when else we would be discussing it except now. And the only difference for the public at home is that instead of being in our chambers where we might, fly a bunch of papers around back and forth and have competing amendments and paper cuts all over the place, we're doing this virtually where, it takes time to put these together. Doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity to vote for one thing and then change, another thing later on just because the amendments weren't put together that way. But right now is the time to talk about it. And so that's why I appreciate our effort to have conversation in this back and forth, because the dialogue is what this council should be doing. That is our job. The county expects us to do. And this is a really important issue. If you don't like it being put together, in 10 lines, but you'd be interested in doing, one line or 2 lines, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what amount above maintenance of effort makes sense, and the principle that our kids deserve more.
Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, just for those following along at home, sort of watching, I want to make this clear. We do talk about this prior to coming in here. We do have discussions with each other. You wouldn't have 4 people as sponsors of an amendment that's introduced at the start of the meeting if those 4 people hadn't had a discussion, or those 3 people hadn't had a discussion. I'm not saying anybody's violating the Open Meetings Act, so don't get it twisted on what I'm saying. But my point with it is there are absolutely discussions that go on that council members have with one another that are fully appropriate and within the bounds of the law, but that happen and allow us to know sort of what we're going to put up, what we're going to propose. We talked to lots of other people about this. We talked to the affected departments. We talked to the budget office. We talked to the auditor. We talked to the Board of Education. So I just want people to understand how this process actually works. And the other thing I want to clarify is we literally had 5, not even full 5 days, but 1 business day between the time that the auditor finished her report on Friday and the administration did their rebuttal, which we wrapped up in mid-afternoon. Between that time and now, we've had to put together all our amendments. And that's not to say that we haven't all been working on them since we got this budget on May the 1st. But in terms of knowing where we want to go and what we want to do, the staff basically works around the clock, as do many of the council members, to get things ready so that come Tuesday morning, as we're supposed to have it, we can have all these things ready to roll. So there have been discussions all weekend long, all day Monday into this morning. That's why we didn't start until 3 o'clock today. I just want to make sure that people following along understand what's really going on here, as opposed to this idea that somehow this is truly the budget debate and discussion.
Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate. It almost sounded to me like Councilwoman Lacy was suggesting that maybe subsequent amendments might have substantial cuts, and that may support from both sides for subsequent amendments. I'm not suggesting that's a definite. I'm just saying it sounds like there might be. Perhaps this amendment would be one to take later on after we've had a chance to actually discuss the other proposed cuts. Since right now we're talking about an add before those subsequent cuts have been discussed, it's a little bit difficult to say, well, we might cover this later. Is there a way that, I guess I would make a motion to hold Amendment 113 to be the last amendment discussed so that we might have a chance to look at the other proposed cuts first, and that way we're looking at this amendment in light of the other cuts.
Well, I would say that the sponsors of this, we've just passed an amendment that covers these additions. So I think we need to proceed with this, with Amendment 113. Mr. Volk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a motion on the floor, so as a point of order, I would second the motion, and then I believe it's ripe for debate, discussion, and vote.
Is there a second? There's a motion, you made the second. Okay, I'm all lost in this process.
I believe, Ms. Hare, were you motioning to hold this amendment till the end of the amendments at this time?
Yes.
And, okay, here. And Mr. Volke, you seconded the amendment?
That's correct, Madam.
I mean, the motion?
The motion, that's correct.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor to hold Amendment 113 until after we finish with these amendments, to the end of these amendments, till after Amendment 173.
Okay. We need to vote on this motion to hold this.
Madam Chair, I would like to speak on the motion.
Oh, Mr. Pruski, please go ahead.
He's Councilman Andrew Pruski. While I respect, holding and other things, I don't know if you know, but I've read the upcoming amendments, and they have so many. You come back, you move forward. If there's another amendment that we need to draw up later, I just think it gets confusing by holding this. It's my personal opinion. Certainly, we'll go back, but I just don't see the benefit of that right now because there's so many other amendments that are there. I won't support the motion because certainly if something's brought up that people would like to address in a future amendment, that's fine. But remember, the preceding amendments don't last. It's whatever the last amendment is. And so I don't think holding on this right now is really helpful. I come back later, but I'm not going to be supporting the current. The motion, excuse me, not the amendment.
Are we ready to call roll on this motion to hold this till the end? Madam Secretary, please call a roll on the motion to hold Amendment 113 until the last amendment.
Mr. Pruski?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Nay.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Nay.
Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. The motion to hold Amendment 113 to the end of amendments is defeated.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Amendment 113.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Nay.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Nay.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Amendment number 113 is adopted.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Amendment number 114. I'm sorry, please read Amendment number 114.
Amendment number 114 reduces business and travel by $13,400 to remove funding for lodging $10,500 and meals $2,900 related to MACO's conferences.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Councilman Bruce.
Is there a second?
Second, Volke.
Would the sponsors like to speak to this amendment? Mr. Volkey,
I'll defer to my colleagues.
Ms. Fiedler,
I'll let Councilwoman Hare go.
Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. I think the summary on this one says exactly what it is. As we were looking through the budget, the line item in the county executive's budget was for MACO's conferences, the summer conference. That conference has been canceled. So this is sort of very plainly an unnecessary expense at this point.
Mr. Trumbauer, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. We're okay with this one. No MACO, no travel. We're fine.
Thank you. Are we ready to call the roll on this vote? Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 114.
Mr. Pruski,
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler,
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian,
Aye.
Ms. Hare,
Aye.
Ms. Lacy,
Aye.
Mr. Volkey,
Aye.
Bird.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 114 is adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 115.
Amendment number 115 reduces business and travel by $50 to remove funding for lodging related to MACO's conferences.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move, Councilman Persky.
Is there a second?
Second, Volkey.
Would the sponsors like to speak to this?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Pruski.
Yeah, I'm not going to speak to it. I wasn't sure why it wasn't added because these were two that I supported. So I would like to be, for the record, to make sure that I'm listed as a co-sponsor of Amendment 115. Thank you.
Mr. Pruski, you are on the amendment.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Trumbauer, did you want to respond to this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's team. So we have no opposition to the intent of this amendment, but our budget folks with their keen eyes detected that the previous amendment 112 took a cut to the CAO fund, and this one would overwrite that, so that cut would be wiped out. So you have three options here. I think you could withdraw this and then redo it and consider it later. You could take a brief recess to fix it, and then we'll take it up. Or if you guys want to pass this, when we come back with our supplemental later, we will just incorporate the previous cut because we'll have to balance out the CAO fund anyway. So we support the intent of this. We acknowledge what you guys are trying to do, and similar to the previous one, we're just taking the travel and money out for the MACO conference from the CAO's office. But we wanted to point out the inconsistency that's in this amendment.
Mr. Pruski?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just wanted to state that obviously with the MACO conference being canceled, I understand that, and I think we can clean this up in the supplemental piece. So I encourage my colleagues to vote for this. We're going to have future ones that we're going to have to clean up also on Friday, but I appreciate the admin speaking in. So this will be a way to do that. Thank you.
Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe we are on 115 and the contingency fund doesn't come in until Amendment 116.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Trumbauer?
Thanks. So when we passed Amendment 112, that is the amendment that took $2,047,700 from the contingency fund. That amendment would be wiped out if you pass 115 as is.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Volkey?
Thank you. Nathan Volkey, District 3. Mr. Trumbauer, maybe you can answer this because you seem well versed on it. So I guess where I'm confused is if I look at 112, it says we're taking a cut to the CAO contingency grants, contributions, and other. If you look at 115, we're taking a cut to Chief Administrative Office, Management and Control, Business and Travel. Why are those two the same thing and one's wiping out the other?
Because they well, I see Madam Auditor wants to comment. I'm happy to defer to her, and then I reserve the right to respond if needed.
Madam Auditor?
Yeah, because the department as a whole total is at the top, that's why you have to rewrite it. But we can, if you want us, we can go ahead and draft one with the 2 million and the MACO. together and bring it down at the end or whenever, or you can fix it later in the supplemental, either way.
Mr. Trumbauer, Mr. Volkey?
I was just going to ask if the mover of the amendment, Mr. Pruski, would be willing to withdraw his moving, and I would withdraw my second, and then we could withdraw the amendment, and then we could come back down with a corrected amendment that fixes this.
Sure, I can withdraw that.
I'll withdraw my second.
So we're withdrawing this amendment altogether?
The sponsors are asking to withdraw. We need all of them to agree. Councilman Peruski, sorry.
Everyone else? Okay.
Madam Chair, point of order, Ms. Hare and Ms. Fiedler as co-sponsors as well. Mr. Pruski and I have both agreed, but they also have to agree.
Yes, I was waiting. Ms. Fiedler, Ms. Hare, are you good with withdrawing this amendment?
That's fine.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 116.
Amendment number 116 reduces business and travel by $1,500 to remove funding for lodging related to MACO's conferences and reduces grants, contributions, and other by $4 million to reduce funding held in the contingency fund.
Give a motion to adopt.
So moved, Volkey.
Is there a second?
Hare, second.
Thank
you. Would the sponsors like to speak to this amendment? Mr. Volkey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So actually, I believe this, no, I think I'm right. This amendment, if it passed, would correct the problem that Mr. Trumbauer was talking about without the need for a subsequent amendment, because this is a larger cut than what was taken in Amendment 112. But what this cut does is two things. One, it reduces the business and travel expense that we were just talking about for MACO that we all agree is unnecessary. That's number one. Number two, what it does is actually takes the CAO contingency fund not down to the, let me look at the exact number, 9.95 number from Amendment 112, but actually cuts an additional couple million and some change money off of there to get us to $8 million in the CAO contingency. Now, the reason that that number was used is because of the discussion that I was having earlier with Mr. Trumbauer about what is the appropriate level, and Mr. Beecham about the appropriate level in the CAO contingency fund. So as I noted, I did have the opportunity, the administration and the budget office were able to send over the contingency fund numbers for back to the FY11 budget. So I just want to read those for my colleagues in case you didn't get a chance to look at this document. But in FY11, $6.1 million was put into the contingency fund. And this is a document that came from the budget office called CAO Fund, CONT, Fund like contingency. It's an Excel file. So if you're looking for that, that's what I'm looking at right now, just for my colleagues. In the FY12 budget, we had 7.768 and 700,000 in there. So a little under 8 million. In the FY13 budget, we had 6.5 million. In the FY14 budget, we had 14.65900 in that contingency fund. In the FY15 budget, we had $10,795,900. In the FY16 budget, because there was, it looks like some fund balance, we only put 3.953 million into that contingency fund. In the FY17 budget, we did 8.931 million. In the FY18, we did 11,096,400. In the 19 budget, we did 12,313,500, and this year it's 12 million. So, like I said, I went back and looked at this history to try to figure out what is the appropriate figure for the contingency fund. This is a policy decision that this council has to make as to the appropriate level. I know that there are concerns that if we have snow removal, that we could be in a predicament where we need more money. The good news is, as we just learned with the COVID-19 situation, when we needed more money and the budget office went and dug through the couch cushions to see what money they could come up with, they found $27 million in additional fund balance that they didn't need, that they were able to use for that. And now we're actually applying to this year's budget to help make up for things. So I think that that would be an appropriate level, putting it at $8 million. It's not outside the historical realm of what we've seen in this fund. and it makes a lot of sense in terms of how much money needs to be in there. And then if we need more money, obviously there are mechanisms that the budget office can go and find that money and then bring it to the council to potentially appropriate differently. So with that said, I would ask for my colleagues' support on this one, because again, it does take care of the issue we were just talking about with 115, so it'll alleviate the need for another amendment, but it also takes care of reducing the contingency fund to an appropriate level. Thank you.
Mr. Trenbauer, would you like to respond for the administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the administration opposes this amendment. This would be a pretty big cut to the CAO contingency fund, and it doesn't take into account that we've already submitted to the council and intend to have another reduction to the CAO fund to fund the body cameras, which we've discussed. So we wouldn't be comfortable with this. We don't quite understand why the sponsors want to take the fund down to this level without a target for those funds, and we would ask the council to object. If there is questions about the previous levels of the CAO contingency fund, we do have Mr. Beecham or Mr. Thoreau here that can answer those, but regardless, I'd ask the council to reject this amendment, please.
Mr. Beecham, I see your hand raised. Did you want to chime in? You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim Beecham, Budget Officer. There is no more change in the sofa cushions. We are utilizing all of our available fund balance in this FY21 budget. So there won't be any more change in the sofa cushions, as Mr. Volke has put it.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on amendment number 116? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 116.
Mr. Pruski?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Nay.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Nay.
Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment number 116 is defeated.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, housekeeping, I'm going to try to make this a little quicker. The sponsors would, I believe, withdraw Amendment 120. That would be myself, Ms. Hare, and Ms. Fiedler. And then I would make a motion, if they agree with that, to have the amendments 117 to 129, excluding 120, moved as a block vote.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second, Fiedler.
Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll on the motion to vote on a block amendments number 117 through 129 minus 120? Is that correct?
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to take amendments number 117 through 129, accepting amendment number 120 as a block, is passed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. This is Allison Pickard, Chair District 2. Can you please read amendments number 117 through 129 minus 120?
Amendment number 117 reduces contractual services by $48,100 for operational equipment services, $22,000, based on expenditure history plus inflation, and lease vehicle replacement rates, $26,100, to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund, reduce supplies and materials by $129,000 for building supplies based on expenditure history plus inflation and planned spending in FY21. Amendment number 118 reduces contractual services by $14,100 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Amendment number 119 reduces contractual services by $613,800 for a vehicle replacement rate to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Reduces supplies and materials by $27,000 for copy machine supplies based on expenditure and to provide for 4 new copiers. Amendment number 121 reduces contractual services by $36,800 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Reduces personal services $11,000 for salaries and wages to correct the one-time bonus payment to non-represented employees. Amendment number 122 reduces contractual services by $64,600 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Amendment number 123 reduces contractual services by $59,700 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Amendment number 124 reduces personal services by $259,000 for salaries and wages to correct a duplicate salary increase. Reduces contractual services by $1,021,400 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Reduces supplies and materials by $25,500 based on expenditure history plus inflation and planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 125 reduces contractual services by $46,100 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Amendment number 126 reduces contractual services by $25,500 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Amendment number 127 reduces contractual services by $11,100 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Amendment 128 reduces personnel services by $52,000 for temporary pay based on expenditure history. Reduces contractual services by $343,300 for mowing, $25,000, and for operating equipment services, $226,000, based on expenditure history and for planned spending in fiscal year 21, and for reduced vehicle replacement rate, $92,300, to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Amendment number 29 reduces contractual services by $189,400 for consultants, $178,000 based on expenditure history, and for vehicle replacement rates, $11,400 to align with expenditures in the garage vehicle replacement fund. Reduces personal services by $16,000 for overtime based on expenditure history.
Is there a motion to adopt amendments 117 through 129 minus 120?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I was going to so move if I'm recognized.
Oh, Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
Chair, second.
Would the sponsors like to speak to these amendments? Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just for those following along at home, all the other things that are included in these amendments beyond the garage vehicle replacement is stuff that's already been passed through by the council. So as we've talked about, the amendments sort of build on each other. As you go through the first amendment, you will, whatever is a subsequent amendment will replace a previous amendment if it doesn't include the cut. So I just want to make sure that when people see all these other things in there, what these amendments are really about is changes to the garage vehicle replacement fund. The other changes that are part of these amendments have already been made by this council. That's why they're included in there. I see Madam Auditor, I think, hopefully nodding her head that I got that right. Okay. That being said, the purpose of these amendments, the auditor's office has gone through and looked and found that a cut to the garage vehicle replacement fund is appropriate. And so that's what we're looking at here. We are having some cuts to the amounts that the departments would contribute so that it actually decreases the operating expenses as opposed to just the amounts of money in the garage vehicle replacement fund, which has a pretty healthy fund balance. Madam Auditor, if I've misstated anything or you want to add, please jump in.
So may I be recognized?
Yeah.
Sorry, Madam Auditor, Susan Smith. So we took a cut in the agreed upon to reduce the expenditures for the garage vehicle replacement by 2.1 million. So the garage replacement fund receives funds from the general fund through department budgeted amounts, and that feeds the revenue so that they can make purchases. So now that they're not making those purchases, you can reduce the rates at the departments, and ending fund balance should be what they had planned for to begin with. It's not, we didn't quite take the full amount, but about that amount.
Thank you. Would the administration like to respond to these amendments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. We'd oppose these amendments. Taking these contributions would really leave no buffer in that fund, and we'd prefer not to do that. We do have Huja Hasim from the Budget Office is in the waiting room, and he knows way more than me about garage funds and may want to make a couple points. So if Huja is available and you can bring him in, I suggest the council may benefit from hearing from him.
Thank you. We'll wait for Mr. Hasim to come in.
And we've been going for a while and you haven't had any Huja yet, so this will be fun. There he is.
Good afternoon, sir. You have the floor. You're muted. You're muted, sir.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon. Huja Hasim from Budget Office. And when we agreed to this garage replacement fund cut, we agreed to cut and then keep the $2 million in garage vehicle replacement fund, because we need to reevaluate the vehicle replacement fund, and then next year's budget, we still have to end up needing $12 million. If we cut and revert this fund back to the general fund, that means next year's structural deficit even bigger. We have to send probably $4 million more than this year's budget. So I think that's my first point. And second point is that we still try to keep our vehicles in good shape. Like currently, police vehicles roughly 3 years age, and we want to keep that. So we may end up needing this money in mid-year or next year's budget. So we don't want to transfer this money to the general fund. Another point is it will be an administrative nightmare to passing all the 30 amendment and then we reconcile all the business units, because we have 30 something departments, all of them have vehicles, all of them have this line item. So we can shoot up, we can reevaluate in next year's budget.
Thank you. Is there any other comments on this amendment? If I moved faster, maybe Mr. Volke wouldn't get his flag up. Mr. Volke.
Not so lucky, Madam Chair. Apologies. Madam Auditor, did you want to respond in any way to that? I just didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
All I would add is that one, that is the planned balance that they would have had. But two, you could also reduce it to the 10% or something smaller if that is something that the council would like to do. But this balance after these cuts would leave the same balance that they had intended to have in their plan budget.
Can I just, Mr. Trumbauer, I want to make sure that I understand that the administration is opposing this amendment.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
That's, Madam Chair, it's Chris Trumbauer from the County Exec's Office. That's what Mr. Hasim's position was that he articulated a minute ago.
Thank you.
And the reasons why.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Oh, on this is, oh Lord, these are the bundled.
On amendments 117 through 129, accepting amendment 120.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pruski.
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Nay.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Nay.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Nay.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendments number 117 through 129, accepting amendment number 120, are adopted. And 120, Mr. Volkey, the sponsors are officially withdrawing that.
That's correct.
Madam Secretary, we'll move along to amendment number 130. Was Ms. Fiedler? You're muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to actually make a motion to bundle the next group of amendments, amendment 130 through I believe 66. They're all similar in nature.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to bundle amendments 130 through 166.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm trying to keep up. I understand that Fiedler made the motion. Mr. Volkey, did you second the motion?
That's correct.
And we are going to take amendment numbers 130 through
166.
166 as a block, no exceptions. That is the motion on the table. Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to take amendments number 130 through 166 as a block is passed. If you will give me a moment, please. Okay.
Madam Secretary, please read amendments number 130 through 166.
Amendment number 130 reduces personal services by $64,600 for salary and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 131 reduces personal services by $4,800 for salary and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 132 reduces personal services by $14,500 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-rep employees. Amendment number 133 reduces personal services by $8,100 for salary and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 134 reduces personal services by $75,900 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 135 reduces personnel services by $6,500 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 136 reduces personnel services by $69,400 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Reduces contractual services by $22,000 for operating equipment services based on expenditure history plus inflation. Reduces supplies and materials by $129,000 for building supplies based on expenditure history plus inflation and planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 137. Reduces personal services by $66,200 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 138 reduces personal services by $3,200 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for represented employees. Amendment number 139 reduces personal services by $3,200 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 140 reduces personal services by $33,900 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 141 reduces personal services by $67,800 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, reduces contractual services by $10,000 for financial audit services based on the expenditure history plus inflation. Amendment number 142 reduces personal services by $37,100 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, reduces supplies and materials by $27,000 for copy machine supplies based on expenditure history and provides for 4 new copiers. Amendment number 143 reduces personal services by $134,000 for salaries and wages, $103,300 to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees and for contractual FICA $30,700 based on planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 144 reduces personal services by $84,000 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, $84,000. Amendment number 145 reduces personal services by $53,300 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 146 reduces personal services by $48,400 for salaries and wages to remove the one-time bonus payments for county council members. $11,300, and to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, $37,100. Amendment number 147 reduces personal services by $122,700 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, reduces contractual services by $22,000 for Centrex phone service based on expenditure history. Amendment number 148 reduces personal services by $4,800 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 149 reduces contractual services by $100,000 for management services based on planned spending, including new initiatives in fiscal year 21. Reduces business and travel by $5,000 for training courses and seminars based on expenditure history. Reduces grants, contributions, and other by $7,000 for grants and contributions based on planned spending in fiscal year 21. Reduces personal services by $72,700 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 150 reduces personal services by $61,400 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 51 reduces personal services by $394,600 for salaries and wages to correct a duplicate salary increase, $259,000, and to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, $135,600. Reduces supplies and materials by $25,500 for copy machine supplies, $11,000, based on expenditure history plus inflation, and for other weapons and supplies, $14,500 based on planned spending in fiscal year 21. Amendment number 152 reduces personal services by $137,300 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 153 reduces personal services by $92,000 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 154 reduces personal services by $12,900 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 155 reduces personal services by $12,900 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Reduces contractual services by $27,500 for other professional services based on expenditure history. Amendment number 156 reduces personal services by $184,100 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 157 reduces personal services by $9,700 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 158 reduces personal services by $427,100 for salaries and wages to align the vacant positions with their applicable minimum salary, $25,000, and to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, $402,100. Reduces contractual services by $10,000 for non-Centrix phone service based on expenditure history. Amendment number 129 reduces personal services by $9,700 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 160 reduces personal services by $33,900 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 161 reduces personal services by $190,900 for salaries and wages, $138,900, to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, and for temporary pay, $52,000, based on expenditure history plus planned spending in fiscal year 21. Reduces contractual services by $251,000 for mowing, $25,000, and for operational equipment services, $226,000, based on expenditure history, and provides funds related to the newly acquired treatment plant. Amendment number 162 reduces personal services by $30,700 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees. Amendment number 163 reduces personal services by $77,400 for salaries and wages, $61,400, to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, and for overtime, $16,000, based on expenditure history. Reduces contractual services by $178,000 for consultants based on expenditure history. Amendment number 164 reduces personal services by $14,500 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, and reduces business and travel by $17,000 for training seminars and courses based on expenditure history plus inflation. Amendment number 165 reduces personal services by $24,200 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees, and reduces contractual services by $20,000 for other professional services based on expenditure history plus inflation. Amendment number 166 reduces personal services by $8,100 for salaries and wages to eliminate the one-time bonus of $1,500 for non-represented employees.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there a motion to adopt amendments 130 through 166? Mr. Volkey.
So moved, Madam Chair. Volkey.
Is there a second?
Second, Fiedler.
Would the sponsor speak to these amendments?
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Fiedler, District 5. The only change, really, even though there was a lot of information there, is to remove the one-time bonus for non-represented employees. You know, if we look at Other jurisdictions around the state, they've adjusted in certain ways. Some have asked for a waiver with maintenance of effort. Some have pushed off negotiated packages 6 months. This council is not moving in either of those directions, but thought that with 63,000 Anne Arundel County residents currently filed or receiving unemployment, this was not the year, although well intended by the administration to recognize the hard work of our employees. It would not be appropriate at this time on the backs of taxpayers to give bonuses in light of a very uncertain economic future.
Mr. Volkey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, again, for folks following along at home, I want to make sure I sort of explain what's going on and what we're doing. So there are a number of unions that represent folks who work for the county. Those unions negotiate with the county executive's office on an annual or biannual basis. So every year to 2 years. With that said, a number of new contracts have been negotiated this year. There had been some representations to this council that we have the ability to not fund those contracts. That is incorrect. As we've learned from the Office of Law, if we fail to fund these contracts in any way, shape, or form, it will it will lead to the unions and the county going to arbitration. So the county executive has made a decision in his judgment, which falls within his purview as the county executive, to enter into these contracts. He has also found the funding in the budget to fund these contracts. He is sending this to the council. The council has really no ability to say you can't do this or you can, because as I understand it from the Office of Law, 9 of the 12 FY21 union contracts have what's called a reopener provision that says that if the administration agrees to fund what's in the memorandum of agreement between the union and the county, and then the county council doesn't fund it, that it then comes back as part of the arbitration process, and they would have to deal with that. So I just want to be clear about what the council can do and what the council can't do, because as many people realize, our county council is pretty weak as a legislative body, comparatively speaking, to the executive, and it's by design. That's the way that the framers of county government set it up. So, if you read our charter, that's what you'll see. My point with saying all of this is the following. We have limited ability to control what we are going to do in terms of pay increases for represented union employees. So that's the path we as a council are basically forced to go down because the county executive has made those decisions. That's where we are. However, this council does have the ability to look at non-represented employees and make a decision as to what's appropriate for pay in that case. And we will be putting up, it wasn't in the initial round of amendments, we'd asked for it and it's being worked on, a freeze for the county council as well, that we're not taking additional pay increases during these times also. So as a result of that, we're looking for a shared sacrifice, more or less, where we can do it, and saying to our non-represented employees, look, we've got so many people in the private sector who've either lost jobs, are on unemployment, are furloughed, have been asked not to take a paycheck, whatever the situation may be, because of the shutdowns associated with COVID-19. And so at this point, we have a tough revenue situation this year, and we're basically saying this is not the appropriate year to be doing this. We don't have the ability to say that for the union contracts. Those are something that the county executive has decided to fund and put in his budget. And so we are getting that. That's our role, is we sort of have to stamp on that. But this is something that we can have a say in. And so I would ask my colleagues to support that because, like I said, I have the email from the Office of Law where they say we don't have the discretion on this. And I think that was sent to all my colleagues earlier today. So with that, I'd ask for your support because I think this makes sense from a shared sacrifice standpoint. And it also makes sense for us as the council when we get there to join in that sacrifice and say to our constituents, we're also not going to take pay increases. We're going to stand in the same spot. So with that, I'd ask for your support.
Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. I also just want to take these amendments from sort of a big picture view. In conversations with the auditor, these one-time bonus payments, it's $2.3 million to the bottom line of the budget as a whole. That's a huge number in a year with this amount of uncertainty. And I know I have gotten a lot of emails, people who are struggling with the unemployment website, aren't making any money, can't get paid, haven't seen a paycheck in 10 plus weeks. I imagine my colleagues are seeing the same thing. $2.3 million for bonus payments to the county employees right now seems really unfair in comparison to the 60,000 plus people in our county right now who are not getting a paycheck at all. And so to spend the taxpayer dollars on that just doesn't seem right for me at this moment.
Would the administration like to weigh in on this amendment, on these amendments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. The administration opposes these amendments. We worked very hard in the budget to try and find a way to give some compensation to our non-rep employees. There's more than 1,000 of them in county government. And you're correct, the union negotiations were completed. We were originally intending, to have a bigger compensation package for the non-reps. As the revenue projections went down and we had to scale back the budget, worried we weren't going to be able to do anything for them at all, which would provide obviously a fairness issue and some inequity. When we were able to, in the last days of the budget, find some available one-time funds to be able to give what we would call a modest one-time payment to our non-reps, we were very proud of that. And we'd ask the council not to strip that away, because it is true, there are a lot of folks in the county that are out of a job or they're on unemployment. But I don't see how punishing the hardworking county employees that are now going above and beyond, trying to keep core services going, trying to keep county government serving the people. I don't understand how those two issues are connected. Councilman Volke spoke about the union negotiations, and there's nothing that I see before us on that topic. I just wanted to say, as 8 years on the county council myself, I always viewed the council as the final fiscal authority. So thank you. That's our comments on these amendments.
Mr. Pruski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a conversation with my colleagues about this, and certainly all these discussions are important. I hope, though, that when I bring a bill forward to get our unrepresented folks to actually have a union and be on the same timeline for folks, that my colleagues will also support them. Because certainly we're making the argument here that if the contracts for fire and police, which we support, and then our other folks, that maybe they do need representation. And Mr. Trumbauer, I hope you could speak to this, because this is from some experience on the council. But even though there is not a bargaining unit, the unrepresented folks have an advisory committee that meet with the county executive or budget office to recommend certain things. So I think I just want to make that clear too, just because they're not a part of the process, that they don't meet unless something changed from prior administrations, but that's been going on in county history for a while. So I hope you could clarify that process, because there's an assumption being made here that they're not, being represented or talked, and the fact that they're not in a union, they shouldn't get that. I mean, if you support cutting for them, cutting the fire and police, that's your argument. But certainly, I just want to clarify the process, if you would, Mr. Trumbauer.
Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. I'm not involved, my position isn't involved in negotiations, but my understanding is the same as what you articulated, Mr. Pruski. And I will say, during my time on the council, I found the non-rep employees to be pretty engaged. So if you guys pass this amendment, I suspect you'll get lots of emails and feedback from those engaged employees. But if you want more specifics, we can try and bring in another member of the team to confirm how that interaction happens between the non-reps and the administration. But if my answer is good enough, then I'll leave it there.
Mr. Volke. You waiting to speak?
I was, yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Trumbauer, this is probably a question for you because you're here for the administration. When were the union contracts that are being funded in this budget, when were they approved?
Chris Trumbauer at the County Exec's Office. Again, I'm not personally involved with those, so I would ask either Mr. Beecham or he could defer to the personnel officer, but can I turn that over to you, Jim?
Mr. Beecham.
Jim Beecham, Budget Officer. The Office of Budget was not engaged in those negotiations this year, so I will defer to our Personnel Officer.
Is Ms. Dickerson in the waiting room? And
She's coming up now.
thank you.
My apologies. The dog thought the bell was the doorbell.
No problem, Ms. Dickerson. It's been a long day.
So I heard the question, and let me start my video. All right. Sherry Dickerson, Personnel Officer. Our contracts were negotiated. We closed out negotiations in early March. We had until the end of February to, before we went to impasse. We extended a few weeks past that date with the agreement of the unions and reached tentative agreements with all of the unions by the second week in March.
And Madam Chair, if I may.
You are recognized, Mr. Volkey.
Thank you. Ms. Dickerson, thank you for being here and for that explanation. I guess the date that's sort of in my mind is the March 16th date, I think, or around March 13th, 14th, when we entered into sort of the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic situation and county government started to shut down, things like that. Were these negotiations completed pre or post sort of COVID-19 from the standpoint of looking at early March? It sounds like it was before COVID.
So all of the tentative agreements were pre-COVID-19.
That's what I don't understand. And then I guess my follow-up question would be, after this situation with COVID-19, where we saw that budget revenues were dropping, projections $63 million, we were having tens of thousands of people file for unemployment, losing their jobs. At that point, did the county executive ever go back to any of the bargaining units and discuss with them whether any changes should be made to the negotiated agreements at that point? Did any of those discussions ever happen?
I am going to defer to Mr. Trumbauer about discussions the county executive had with the unions.
Okay.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Sorry, I was engaged in a side conversation with the budget officer. Can you repeat the question?
So the question, Mr. Trumbauer, was this: subsequent to the negotiation of these agreements, which were somewhere in late February, early March, when we started to see a $63 million drop in projected revenues, when we saw that tens of thousands of county residents were losing their jobs and filing for unemployment, at that point, was there any discussion between the county executive and any of the bargaining units to potentially look at the terms of the negotiated agreements in light of the new economic situation?
Thank you, Mr. Volkey. Chris Trumbauer at the County Exec's Office. My understanding is that the last contract was signed or was wrapped up by early March, I think March 10th or so. That was right at the time when the COVID situation was starting to become apparent. I can't say for certain whether the county executive had or didn't have individual conversations with members of the bargaining units at that time, but I do know that those contracts were agreed upon and that those negotiations were wrapped up before we started having the conversations with the budget office about the reduced revenue projections. So it was right all at the same time in early March, but it was union stuff got done. Then we're meeting with budget and finding out, whoa, projections are going to change. And then I think, as has been detailed to the council, we got our first new revenue projections in early March, and we got our final ones by April, second week of April, I think. And those are the ones that we continue to go by, that total $63 million write-down. So it's just a matter of timing. The union negotiations got concluded right when the situation with the COVID pandemic was becoming apparent.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I was trying to look through my documents because I don't have it readily in front of me, but I thought that in his budget address, when he presented the budget on May the 1st, that the county executive may have mentioned something about, people had suggested maybe he do that, to go back and talk with some of the bargaining units, and that he'd elected not to. So I just wanted to make sure that I had understood what he said correctly, but I can't find his remarks anywhere in my notes. So that's why I was asking the question.
Sure. I will just say the county executive's budget remarks are available on the county budget website.
No, I'll have to go watch it again. So,
yeah.
All right.
Well, we've put the printed remarks up there too, but I I think we've characterized the conversation adequately.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for the administration. You know, I certainly understand that we're sitting here going over amendments, and we obviously have very different opinions on a lot of these, but I just want to go back to the punishment comment. I think it's unfair to describe this amendment as a punishment to our employees. I want to recognize that they have done stellar in their performance as an employee with the county, but I think that this amendment recognizes that while we have 1,000 employees that would receive this bonus, we have 63,000 constituents who have been on unemployment, filed for unemployment, and they reside in all of our districts. And we need to acknowledge that and acknowledge the very uncertain times ahead and the suffering that their families are going through right now as well. And that is all.
Thank you. This is Allison Pickard, Chair, District 2. I think I've been quoted in the paper, and I've said some things regarding the importance of local governments being part of the recovery. And so some of these folks that are not receiving pay increases or merit increases, they're just receiving a one-time bonus payment. One-time payment could very well be in a household where they are suffering from unemployment as well. So we have an opportunity. I don't think we are obviously providing services. This county government provides services to constituents, but they're also an employer in this county. And the one-time funds have been found, and they are acknowledging an unrepresented employment group within the county. And I think it is important that my colleagues understand that they are not receiving salary increases, unlike some of their other colleagues that are represented. So I think we do find ourselves on opposite ends of this argument, but I think the county government finds itself with an opportunity to support our families in the county in this way. Thank you. Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Understood with the comments that you're making, and I appreciate that. I did want to check one other thing with Ms. Dickerson while we have her here. This $1,500 bonus payment, does this factor into the pension calculations for any of these individuals, like a COLA or a merit increase or anything like that might? Or is this just a one-off payment that has no real effect on future liabilities?
It's Sherry Dickerson, Personnel Officer. It's a one-time bonus that's not factored into the pension calculation.
Okay, thank you. That was how I understood it too. And so with that, while this $1,500 I'm sure is appreciated by the county employees, it doesn't actually move them ahead in terms of their salary or their benefits that they're receiving on the back end, unlike what you would be seeing for some of these negotiated agreements. I did, because I know that we all get paid 26 times a year every 2 weeks, take that $1,500 and divide it by 26 pay periods. It comes out to $57.70 per pay. If you then take the after-tax figure, assuming that most people have a withholding of around 25%, you are looking at about $43 in someone's paycheck that we're talking about is the difference of what this bonus would be. So while I know that anything is appreciated and folks appreciate the county taking care of them in tough times and in good times, my point with this is, in terms of the overall impact that we can make on the budget versus the amount that it's actually going to impact these non-represented folks, like I said, I expect that we will stand in solidarity with them. I'm not asking them to do anything that we're not going to do too. So I would ask that we all kind of get in this together.
I'd like to just counter that. This is Allison Pickard, Chair, District 2, with the fact that while $59 or a pay period may not mean much to you, if you have a spouse that has not received their unemployment, it may mean an opportunity for you to go to the grocery store versus going to the food bank during this time. So, our non-represented employees span the whole gamut of income levels within this county. So I find that offensive. Ms. Lacy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to understand, because I keep hearing that the argument that we're not asking county employees to do that which we won't do for ourselves. Not sure whether the reference is to the $1,500 bonus that was erroneously included in the administration's budget, or does it have to do with the automatic by law compensation changes, which, if that's the case, as I see my colleague Mr. Volke nodding his head, then everyone at home also needs to know, in hearing this discussion, that this body, though we are the final fiscal authority, we are not empowered to change our own salaries during our terms, period. So the argument that we will also sacrifice is not one you can actually truthfully make. It's misleading. What you can do is, after you receive your salary, you can donate it back to the county if you want. Even if you did that, you would have a legally valid claim to get your salary back from the county. So go ahead and give it back if you want. Maybe anyone can make, the 7 of us, we can make that determination for ourselves, but you can't be making it as a legal argument. And I think it's very important to get the facts straight. It's not true that the 7 of us can be, compelled to do what you're suggesting.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually am going to push back on what my colleague said. So I had an extensive back and forth with the County Office of Law on this exact point, because about a month and some time ago, when myself, Councilwoman Hare, and Councilwoman Fiedler called for these pay freezes, a number of my colleagues pushed back on that and said that that was wrong and that you can't possibly do that. So I had the Office of Law do quite a bit of research on that, both on the standpoint of, is it legal? Are you allowed to not fund these salary increases? And then furthermore, if you didn't do it as a council, who would have standing to be able to come back and complain about that? Who would be the person that's affected? And because we would be decreasing our salaries, the only people who would have standing would be us, the 7 of us. So if we were to vote to take that out and to not take that pay increase that's automatic in law, then we would be the ones who would have to be coming in and complaining about it, not the taxpayers, because we're actually saving money for the taxpayers. So I have pretty extensive case law history I can cite for you when we get to that amendment, but I just want to clarify, it's not legally wrong. I have spent a lot of time with the Office of Law going back and forth on this, reading the opinions that they've put together on this exact point. So hopefully others have gotten a chance to review those as well, because I know that I think they've been sent out.
Well, at this moment, the amendments on the table are amendments 130 through 166, and I'd like to move forward, if we could, on the amendments that were actually motioned and seconded and are under discussion. Ms. Lacy? Ms. Rodvian?
I'm fine with calling the question on those amendments.
Ms. Rodvian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilman Rodvian, District 6. I would just add that, the employees of county government, represented, non-represented, are working class folks. We don't have anyone, we have maybe a very small number of people making even more than $100,000 in county government. So overall, we have, folks, like I said, working class folks who are going to spend any money they have and put it right back into the local economy. And I would encourage anyone that in county government or elsewhere that is receiving any sort of pay at this time, whether it's increased pay or pay you were already receiving, to find ways to support the local economy. If you have money, please spend it. Thank you.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendments number
130 through 166.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Pruski.
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Nay.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Nay.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Nay.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment numbers 130 through 166 are defeated.
Thank you. We'll keep moving along in our amendments. Mr. Pruski,
Yes, Madam Chair, Councilman Andrew Pruski, I'd like to make a motion to bundle amendments 167 through 173.
is there a second?
Lacy, second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion to bundle amendments 167 through 173. Can you please call the roll on that motion?
Okay, so motion to take amendments 167 and 173 as a block. Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative. The motion to take amendments 167 and 1 through 173 as a block is passed.
Madam Secretary, can you please read amendments 167 through 173?
Amendment number 167, capital budget restores fiscal year 21 bonds of $1,500,000 and restores fiscal year 21 PPI funding of $1 million. Amendment number 168, capital budget increases fiscal year 21 bonds by $175,000. Amendment number 169, capital budget increases fiscal year 21 bonds by $1,626,000 and increases fiscal year 21 other state grants by $943,500. This replaces $500,000 for grants that was not awarded for $500,000 in bonds and provides for an additional grant for $1,443,500 and additional bonds of $1,126,000. Amendment number 170, capital budget increases fiscal year 21 bonds by $250,000. Amendment 171, capital budget increases fiscal year bonds by $500,000. Amendment 172, capital budget increases fiscal year bonds by $150,000 and increases fiscal year 21 bonds by $150,000 and increases fiscal year 21 other state grants by $40,000. Amendment number 173, capital budget increases fiscal year bonds by $500,000.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. These amendments are all related to the capital budget for the Board of Education. Mr. Pruski, did you want to elaborate?
No, I was going to say so moved.
Oh,
Well, we need a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt. My apologies.
is there a second?
Lacy, second.
Now, Mr. Pruski, would you like to speak to these amendments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm only going to speak to 167. As many of you know, on the council, we received a lot of emails, and I know the administration did as well, regarding West County Elementary. There are many school projects that are obviously impacted, but when you look at the overcrowding in certain areas, it's very important that we move this project forward. There was a lot of folks that were certainly taken back that it wasn't included. I think we've worked with the administration, and I appreciate their efforts to try and continue that. We, just like this, the rest of the budget, we don't know the future, and obviously we're going to adapt. But I think this is important in terms of a capital project that helps a wider range in the area, not just my district, but many others, because when we talk about redistricting, it does impact Crofton and the surrounding areas that aren't even included in my community. So I'd ask everyone for their support. Thank
you. Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Hare, District 7. I was just going to touch on what Councilman Pruski just stated. This Amendment 167 specifically does also touch on District 7 in the overcrowding and redistricting. But more than that, each of these amendments is school infrastructure we saw in the capital budget that we are under spending affordability for this particular year. So I'm happy to lend my support to this group of amendments.
Thank you. This is Allison Pickard, Chair, District 2. We worked very closely with the administration, with Mr. Sheknovic, with the school system, and the auditor. I didn't know if Mr. Sheknovic wanted to be brought forward to talk about any of these, or if we were prepared. Would the administration like to speak to these while we?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumeyer with the County Exec's Office. So we support this amendment, and we the council for working with the auditor and the Board of Ed to find a way to bring in West County Elementary for the planning and design. And the other things we understand were worked out with Ms. Beknovich and the superintendent's staff, primarily using some of the cuts that you've taken earlier in the day. So we support this amendment, and I will put on the record that if this passes, the administration will bring forth in its supplemental a way to put the out year construction funding in for West County, because if we put the planning and design, we feel like we need to show how the school is going to get built. And just one slight word of caution, it will bring the county close to the affordability level, but we believe we can fit it in once we double check all the numbers. So we support the amendments before you now.
Thank you. Mr. Sheknovic, did you care to comment on this bundle of amendments?
Yes, ma'am. For the record, Alex Sheknovich, Chief Operating Officer for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Simply wishing to express my gratitude to Madam Auditor, the Council, and the administration. It was truly a collaborative effort to arrive at a very good outcome, albeit in tight times. And much to Councilwoman Hare's point, there is a significant infrastructure backlog, but spending on capital expenditures is one of the best uses of public funds. It does put the most people back to work productively and solves some much needed school capacity and condition deficiencies. And with that, I urge your support and thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is Allison Pickard, Chair, District 2. Would anyone else like to comment on this block of amendments? Okay, I'm going to do this right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendments 167 through 173.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment numbers 167 through 173 are adopted.
So thank you, Madam Secretary. I have been informed that there are, my amendment stopped at 173. So we have amendments. How many more amendments do we have?
Madam Chair, we have 2 amendments that have come in regards to the amendments that were withdrawn. We have amendment number, the next amendment would be number 174. Mr. Volkey, Ms. Fiedler, and Ms. Hare, the sponsors.
Okay. Mr. Volkey.
Madam Chair, motion to adopt Amendment 174. Thank you.
I need to read it in first.
I'd like to see it first. So can we just take a quick minute so that I can?
Yes, I believe they're in the drives.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, go ahead and read in amendment number 174.
Amendment number 174 reduces contractual services by $17,800 for vehicle replacement rates to align with expenditures in the Garage Vehicle Replacement Fund, reduces personal services by $30,700 for contractual FICA to correct an error in the calculation.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Wilkie, so moved.
Is there a second?
Fiedler, second.
Would the sponsors like to speak to this? Mr. Volkey?
Yeah, it just corrects Amendment 120. So as we withdraw on Amendment 120, we already voted on that block, which was about the garage vehicle replacement funds. So this is just a correction for 120.
Would the administration like to weigh in briefly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trummeyer with the County Exec's Office. We opposed the original amendment and pointed out the error. So to be consistent, now that it's fixed, we still oppose it and would ask the council to reject it. Since you had rejected all the other garage funds one, this would be a little odd if you accepted it.
So noted. Is there any other discussion on amendment number 174, which now I can see on my computer? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 174.
Mr. Pruski?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Ron?
Nay.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Nay.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment number 174 is defeated.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 175.
Amendment number 175 reduces business and travel by $1,500 to remove funding for lodging related to MACO's conferences and reduces grants, contributions, and others by $2,047,700 to reduce funding held in the contingency fund.
Ms. Hare?
I'd like to move motion to adopt amendment 175.
Is there a second?
Second, Volkey.
Would the sponsors like to speak to this or the administration? Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is to correct amendment number 115.
Would the administration like to weigh in on this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trummeyer with the County Exec's Office. No objection from us.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 175.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment 175 is adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 176.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, I do not have that. If you will give me one moment. Amendment number 176 reduces personal services by $14,600 for salaries and wages to remove the one-time bonus payments for county council members included in error, $11,300 in the county auditor's budget, and to remove council salary increases effective December 1, 2020, $3,300.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move, Volkey.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would the sponsors like to discuss this amendment? Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we've already started discussion earlier on a prior amendment, so I guess this is just picking up on it. All this amendment does is two things. One, it corrects an error, which would have given us a $1,500 bonus, which we can't get because by law, as some of my colleagues have noted, our pay cannot change. The other thing that it would do is stop the increase, the automatic increase of our salaries on December 1, 2020, when they're supposed to go up 2%. So this would cut that back. It would put us in a position of shared sacrifice. I would actually like to see, and what I think we didn't do in this and we should have done, is cut it even before now a little bit, but in any event, we didn't do that. So the point is, this would say that come December 1, our salaries don't go up, they stay flat, that nothing changes for us, because in the midst of all this, I don't think that we should be getting the pay increase. So that's my thought process, and I believe a number of my colleagues stand with me. As some people have alluded to, there have been a lot of discussions about this particular question as to whether or not the county council's pay can or cannot increase. I want to acknowledge off the bat something that one of my colleagues said, which is by law, our pay is not supposed to change. I agree 100% with that. That is what's in the Maryland Constitution. It says it. It says that it's illegal to change our pay in the middle of our terms. We understand that. However, there have been cases from around the country, and the Office of Law has looked at this, that suggests that we can freeze our pay. And then if we do that, the only people who are affected are the 7 of us, because the taxpayers aren't going to come back and ask to give us more money. They don't have standing for that. The Office of Law did an analysis. So the only standing would be the 7 of us to come in and complain that we didn't get our increase. This is going to cost $3,300. It is not a particularly heavy hit to the budget, and it's also not a particularly heavy hit, I would hope, to any of us, but it may be, I'm not sure. So with that, I suppose if that's the argument and the rationale that some of my colleagues have, is that the pay increase is needed, then I guess we can have that discussion. But for me, regardless of what happens with this, I plan to donate that back already. I mean, that's something I'm going to do. So if this doesn't pass, I'll do it on my own because I think it's the right thing to do. But I do think that from a symbolic standpoint, for all of us, that standing up and saying we're going to be in this together with other county employees, and not just the county employees, with our 600,000 plus constituents who are out there who are hurting, and the 63,000 plus constituents who have filed for unemployment, say to them, we're not going to take a pay increase. I can tell you, when I proposed this, I had people who routinely send me emails and tell me how silly they think my ideas are on many things. And many of them stand on the other side of the aisle from me, who said, I think this is a good idea. I think you should freeze your pay. Absolutely, the politicians should freeze their pay. So it's not just folks who generally agree with me who think this is a good idea. I think this is a bipartisanly good idea. And I would hope that everybody on the council can support me in passing this. Thank you.
Ms. Lacy.
Madam Chair, since I saw our legislative counsel raised her flag just a moment ago, could she go before me, please? I'd like to hear from her.
Excuse me, Ms. Schuett. Good afternoon. You have the floor.
Good afternoon. I first of all want to point out that I need to thank Andrew Pruski for getting me a yellow. I now have a yellow flag, just like all of you do. Very cool. And so I understand Mr. Volkey's intent, and I understand the reasoning for it. However, unless there were more opinions that came out of the Office of Law that I didn't see, which is possible, the Office of Law opined or came to the opinion that not including the vested increases that were already in the law would violate the Maryland Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lacy.
This is probably one of those times where I shouldn't speak, but I'm sorry. Shame on you for even arguing that, Mr. Volke. Truly, because I think this is an entirely misleading conversation. And your colleagues, not your colleagues, your constituents who emailed you and said, great, take a pay decrease. I would bet they also support decreasing Congress members' salaries or senators' salaries. You're not making the factual distinctions that actually apply here. And those are so significant that in 2017, there was a commission to study what the salaries should be. They issued a report. The prior council adopted the law that is what is going to go into effect on December 1st with the 2% increase. So I think if you really wanted to show that you share the pain, you would not only go ahead and give up your salary right now or after July 1st, you would do that in addition to waiting until December, or you would give up the 2% from July 1st to December 1st, which you already have by virtue of last year's increase. I would move to strike this amendment if that were the appropriate procedural thing to do. It's not. We're going to vote it down, but I'm actually offended that you're bringing this argument, which is completely false, wrong, illegal, and you're wasting everybody's time. No more flag. I'm done.
Did anyone else want to comment on amendment number 176?
Madam Chair, did you want the administration's position?
Certainly. You have the floor, Mr. Trumbauer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer with the County Exec's Office. So the issue about the council member salary, I think we'll stay out of, but the other parts of the amendment that would take the one-time pay from the staff and the auditor's office, we would oppose to be consistent with our previous position on the previous amendments.
So this amendment, since I just printed it 5 minutes ago, is more than just about $3,300 of legislated.
I'm wondering about the part of the county auditor's budget.
Can I weigh in? Because they budgeted the county council members bonus in the county auditor's budget. So we have to take it from the county auditor's budget, but it's the county council's. And that's how it went before in the agreed upon.
So previously it was Amendment 6 that corrected that. So you're saying this just brings in that same thing and adds the council member component?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you. Well, as my colleague mentioned, this amendment and this conversation, I am a little concerned about disregarding things that are in the code. There was a salary commission that convened in, I believe, 2017, and the previous council made a unanimous vote to take these, to reevaluate the county council salary. And the reason it's in the state constitution that we cannot adjust our pay is so that we don't end up with conversations just like this. Because this is sort of grandstanding, this is sort of being a point, but this is in our code. And I don't know what would happen if we don't take it this year. Are we going to do this every year? Because it goes up every single year based on the code language that was adopted by the previous council. Is this an Office of Law question about what happens with holding this pay and then next year and the year after that? This is a whole process that was taken care of in 2017 to reevaluate council pay.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Chris Trumbauer at the County Exec's Office. So we only are seeing this amendment, recently as you guys are. I don't see that Mr. Swain is in the waiting room, and I've been trying to get a hold of him and I haven't yet. So I can't say that Office of Law is available to opine it, but it sounds like both Ms. Schuett and Councilmember Volke have had conversations with Office of Law. As I'll remind the council, the Office of Law is your attorney too, so we're not privy to those conversations. I can keep trying to get in touch with Mr. Swain, but at the moment, he doesn't seem available.
I believe Ms. Schuett has weighed in that this is against the Maryland Constitution. Ms. Schuett, did you want to comment?
I did, because it was the opinion of Greg Swain and the Office of Law that the Maryland Constitution prohibits an increase or decrease in the council's salary the council can't do that during their own term of office, and that taking away a vested right to an increase it violates the Constitution. So that, and I have distributed that opinion, I believe, to all of you, and that opinion says it violates the Constitution to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really more a point of order. We've gone through a lot of amendments today, and I just want to clarify or confirm that we have, in a previous amendment, already removed the one-time bonus to the county council. So that is, even though that's included in this amendment, that has already been addressed in a previous amendment. Am I correct? Yes, I see lots of nodding heads. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe that is correct. It's hard to read amendments on the fly.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
This is Allison Pickard, Chair, District 2. I am a little concerned with this council taking this vote to disregard a part of the code. Is there any other part of the code we're going to see an amendment that we're going to disregard at this time and just turn a blind eye to? Mr. Volke.
Madam Chair, I'd move to call the question.
Fantastic. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 176.
Madam Chair, point of order, since there was no second for the motion, and I don't know if somebody intended to second it or not, that motion, I guess I would have to withdraw if we're just going to move on to the vote, because the motion had been made and not seconded. So it either needs to die or we need to move on to the vote.
I was not, we were discussing this amendment without it being seconded.
No, that's not what we're talking about. My motion to call the question, which took precedent in the debate. So I'll withdraw the motion to call the question.
Ms. Rodvian.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Ms. Rodvian, District 6. Just a point of information. Does anyone have the starting salary of the county council handy?
No.
Okay. Am I correct that it's in the ballpark of about $37,000, $38,000 a year? Oh, looks like maybe Madam Auditor has the answer.
Madam Auditor.
So the regular members, right, at the beginning of the year will make $39,535. The chair and vice chair make a little bit more. The chair is $44,217 and the vice chair is in between. And in December, they go up to $40,326 with the chair at $45,101 and the vice chair at $41,388.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. I think it's important to point out that we are not really in the same pay ballpark as our senators and representatives at the federal level.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 176.
Mr. Pruski.
Nay, because it's illegal.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Nay.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacy.
Nay.
Mr. Volke.
Aye, because we can do it and it's the right thing to do.
Ms. Pickard.
Oh, I can't resist, Mr. Volke. Nay, because it's against the Maryland State Constitution and I support the Constitution.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment number 176 is defeated.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1 to bill number 27-20.
Madam Chair, first I will read in bill number 2720.
Oh, gotcha.
Bill number 2720, an ordinance concerning tax levies, special community benefit districts, shore erosion control districts, and waterways improvement districts.
Pardon me, point of order. I just refreshed the Google folder and I see there's an amendment number 177 to bill 2620.
Oh, I can't hear you, Ms. Lacey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi. Yes, point of order. I refreshed my folder and saw that there is an amendment number 177 to bill 2620. Should we hear that before we go on to bill 27?
Well,
yes.
It would be good to know if the chair had the amendment.
And I will have to get it myself, so we'll take a moment so everyone can have the amendment. Madam Chair, I am in receipt of the amendment. We can move forward if everybody is ready.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 177.
Amendment number 177 reduces the amounts appropriated by $22,147,900 from the impact fee fund to correspond with the impact fee amounts shown as revenue in the capital project fund. This is Madam Auditors.
Yes, ma'am. Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Auditor, did you want to speak to this amendment?
Yeah, this is just a balancing amendment. It balances the operating appropriation for impact fees for what's in the capital budget. We always kind of balance it out after the first go round. It'll be done again on Friday, but I don't know if they might want to see the balancing out before the supplemental. Might help them balance things out. So I wanted to go ahead and bring it up.
Thank you. Mr. Trumbauer, did you want to speak to this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trumbauer at the County Exec's Office. We have no opposition, but I'll let Mr. Beecham comment on it. I think his team has been able to check it.
Mr. Beecham?
Jim Beecham, Budget Officer. This is, as Madam Auditor proposed, a balancing amendment, and it helps us model the CIP to see how close we are to balance with the CIP. So we are in support of this. It has been checked by our staff.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on amendment number 177? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 177.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mrs. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Aye.
Ms. Lacey.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 177 is adopted.
Okay. Madam Secretary. Yes, Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 27-20.
Bill number 27-20, an ordinance concerning tax levies, special community benefit districts, shore erosion control districts, and waterways improvement districts.
Madam Secretary, there's an amendment to this bill. Please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment corrects the tax levy for Whitehall WID.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Councilman Peruski, motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Advian, second.
Would the administration like to speak to this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Trummeyer with the County Exec's Office. I believe it does as advertised, but if Mr. Beecham has any additional comments, turn it over to him, but I think it's straightforward.
Mr. Beecham?
Jim Beecham, Budget Officer, no additional comment on the $70 mathematical correction.
Thank you. Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just, while we're going through these last few amendments, I thought this would be an appropriate time to say thank you so much to the Budget Office, Madam Auditor, and the Auditor's Office for all of the hard work that you do, including some very, very long days and nights, and of course the entire Budget Office and our budget officer. So thank you for doing this and getting everything down to the penny.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Mr. Peruski?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Hare?
Aye.
Ms. Lacy?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 is adopted.
Okay. 178 amendments. Later, we'll now take a recess to allow the administration time to organize. Mr. Trumbauer, do you have a time you'd like us to reconvene?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will defer to Mr. Beecham. I know his team will work as quickly as possible, but he can give the most accurate estimate.
Jim Beecham, Budget Officer. The last I heard from my team, they were requesting a 2-hour recess. That would put us right at 8 p.m. to reconvene, if that's acceptable to Madam Chair.
Thank you. The council stands in recess until 8 p.m. See everybody at 8 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. This is Allison Pickard, Chair of District 2. We will reconvene. The June 9th, 2020 meeting of the Anne Arundel County is now reconvened. Madam Secretary, please call the roll once more.
Mr. Peruski?
Here.
Ms. Fiedler?
Present.
Ms. Rodvian?
Present.
Ms. Hare?
Present.
Ms. Lacy?
Present.
Mr. Volkey?
Here.
Ms. Pickard?
Present.
Madam Auditor?
Present.
Madam Chair, all council are present.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, we will hear from Mr. Jim Beecham with the Budget Office.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. I appreciate your patience as we work to integrate all of the amendments and rebalance the proposed budget. On behalf of County Executive Stuart Pittman, I'd like to submit the supplemental budget letter and the attached proposed amendments to the FY 2021 proposed budget that we had originally presented to you on May 1, 2020. If I could run through the letter briefly with you, I'd like to highlight some components of this supplemental budget request. Errors and omissions, we had about $440,000 worth of errors and omissions. It affected 9 departments in the general fund, 4 other funds as well with some minor changes, and there were some page replacements. In the supplemental request, if I could highlight some of the major components of this in the current expense budget. For Anne Arundel Community College, we increased auxiliary and other components totaling $1.274 million. For the police department and associated departments, we had a bundle of 5 amendments that added the body camera program. The chief administrative officer contingency fund changed by a total of $2,274,300 in an effort to balance. On the next page, you will see a series of grants that changed as well. The capital budget and program, there's a table on page 5 that shows a summary of the amendments passed earlier today. In this supplemental budget, I'd like to highlight the athletic stadium improvements. We've added $500,000 in bonds for FY21. At the top of page 6, we've added the West County Elementary School. This has a total project cost of over $39.5 million. In one of your amendments we looked at earlier, we added the design work in FY21. This supplemental budget adds the rest of the project for full construction through the CIP plan. Also, about 2/3 of the way down the page, Anne Arundel Community College, the Information Technology Enhancement Package for $1.7 million. The final balancing for our budget, the current expense budget supplemental request general fund totaled $3,690,200. We used $1,415,900 of the operating budget reductions from today's amendments, and we used $2,274,300 of the CAO contingency to balance the budget as presented today.
Thank you, sir. Is that the totality of your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. At this time, under section 709 of the Charter of Anne Arundel County, if the county executive proposes amendments to the budget so as to increase items in the budget or add items to the budget, the county council must give reasonable public notice of the proposed amendments and hold a public hearing on the amendments, provided that the county council may waive the requirement for a public hearing by a vote of 5 members. May I have a motion to waive the public hearing required by section 709 of the charter?
Lacey, so moved.
May I have a second?
Councilman Pruski, second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the motion to waive the public hearing required by section 709 of the charter.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Hare.
Nay.
Ms. Lacy.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Nay.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. The motion to waive the public hearing on supplemental budget is defeated.
The motion to waive the public hearing required by section 709 of the charter has failed. Notice of the supplemental budget will be advertised. Copies of the amendments will be posted on the county website. Please check the council's website for ways to submit testimony on the supplemental budget. The public hearing will be held during the virtual meeting scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Friday, June 12th, 2020, and any public testimony received will be posted before the meeting begins. Upon the conclusion of the public hearing, the council will vote on the supplemental amendments to the budget and vote finally on bills numbers 26-20 through 36-20. Is there any other business to be brought before the county council at this time? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Councilman Pruski, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Lacey, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you, everyone. The County Council is adjourned until 9 a.m. on Friday, June 12th, 2020. Have a great night and be safe.